Hello everyone, welcome to my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. It is the weekend edition again, and in today's chapter, I am going to stick it to my detractors. And if you want to know what I mean by that, all you got to do is stay tuned. Well, you know what? Detractors, well, not on YouTube. I can only wish for that yet. I'm not even at that phase. So, yeah, the detractors that I had sometimes were students when I taught in the high school industrial arts system. And but one of the things that helped me out that I hope you never have to deal with is I went around with a radial arm saw many years ago, and I didn't win. So yeah, anytime you're going to challenge a power tool to a duel, the tool wins every time. And we're going to talk a little bit about the stick it to me today. What I mean by that is push sticks. Very creative, hey? We're going to try to juice that YouTube algorithm a little bit. I don't know. It's my attempt at humor, and it is an attempt. But anyway, the whole idea of push sticks, which in the school system that I taught in, well, I think any school system you teach in you should be using push sticks. But I think they are probably the best bang for your buck for safety that you're going to get. Now, these are homemade. You can go out and buy them if you prefer, but I preferred in the school shop to make them to show students that this wasn't a piece that you had to buy. This could be made. I use scrap plywood, and I'll talk a little bit more about the push stick construction a bit later. One of the reasons that this video I think is more poignant now than maybe 6 months ago is if you've been looking at the internet at all and watching some of the other woodworking channels, it's been discussed that SawStop is going to be letting go of its control of the flesh sensing technology that SawStops are so famous for. Now, in the school system where I taught, probably for the last third of my career, we had SawStop table saws. Oh, maybe half of my career. At the end of my career, we had two of them, and one dedicated dado head. Funny, we have that here too, and one was our main cutting saw. My opinion of SawStop tools is they're excellent. I love those two table saws. I kept joking that that should be my retirement gift, one of them. But hey, they didn't bite for that. So they're a wonderful piece of equipment. But with that technology being released, it causes a number of other issues that I don't think have been dealt with yet. Now, my information is coming from YouTubers out of the US. Canada might be a little different. I don't know what we're going to do. But the discussion basically went that, you know, what's going to happen to the used saws? Because, well, first of all, it seems that it might be mandated in the US that all table saws have this new technology. Now, again, not sure what the Canadian situation will be, but what about the used market? Like, so when you know, are the table saw police going to come to my shop one day and take my table saws and haul them to landfill at some undisclosed location? I don't know. I sure hope not. But I think, although governments mean well, technology, in my opinion, does not take the place of good technique. And I think even with the technology, you still need good table saw technique. And one of those things, the contributing factor to that technique, is using proper safety equipment, using push sticks. So can this state-of-the-art table saw in 1995, can I use it safely? In my opinion, yes, I can. And these are largely why. So let's take a look at the push sticks that I had students make in school, and I made many of them myself. Let's take a look at what makes these what I think is important. That's not a very good sentence. Jeepers, I'm glad Mr. Kitchen isn't here to correct my grammar. So this is my push stick. Let's get the tape measure out and just take a look at some of the features. Okay, it should be a foot long. It's a 1/4 inch less. It may be sanded. I sanded a bit on the end. I don't know. So they're a foot long. But more importantly, notice from where the stalk will be pushed to the beginning of the red part here. Am I getting that in view? That is 6 inches. Now, that is a little bit more than the recommended clearance from your, or recommended distance your hand should be away from the cut for most power tools. For table saws, I believe it's 4 inches. So if you got the blade up a little bit and you're cutting, this gives you that 4-inch margin. I also, the early ones were dipped in Plasti Dip, and they had a little bit nicer feel to them, which I liked. These are just dipped in trim clad, red trim clad. But it isn't really, the dip isn't for comfort. The red was where the students were to put their hands. Okay, and this may surprise you, but I had students occasionally that would use the push stick like this. Well, your distance is gone. You may as well run it barehanded. So I had to remind students often to keep their hands on the red. And I find using color when you're teaching somebody is a very, very powerful and effective way of conveying an idea. So I would just say, keep your hands on the red, and they knew exactly what I meant. So now the other thing that I did to these, you've probably seen it already, that is a rare earth magnet in a cup. And I buy this at Lee Valley. And I like these because this way when you're done with it, you stick it on the tool. We're sticking it to things again. So you stick it to the tool and that push stick is always where it should be. So that's the other thing that's so important when you work with safety. To make this saw as safe, okay, I know that's leading, but as a unit, as a saw stop saw is learning how to use your push sticks. Now, I worked in the school shop probably for 15 years with an older unisaw than this, and we use push sticks all the time. When you're doing safety, though, with students, and I'd encourage you to follow this in your own shop, whether you're a contractor or a homeowner or a student or whatever, safety is safety. Do it the same all the time. But the things you need to do is you need to have a plan. So often on YouTube, I'll see a person in the middle of a table saw cut and they'll realize their hand's going to get too close to the blade. And luckily they have some piece of lumber lying around that they can push through with. I mean, that's better than doing it with your fingers, but it's still not a planned episode. You have to shift your attention from the spinning blade to get your push stick. So I would argue that you should start the cut with push sticks in hand. I always call this technique palming your push sticks, because even with my right hand, I can still grab a piece of wood, lift it, hold it, control it, but my push stick is right there. So I think that's a good technique. I taught that way for, well, the first year or two, I didn't really know a whole lot about it, but I devised this on my own, and I've still liked that technique. So you need to be prepared, you need to plan. When you're a teacher, you need to teach it. You need to do examples. You need to show students how to do it. And then you need to let them do it with you watching and critiquing their technique. So I don't want to turn this into a table saw safety video, but I would argue that I think a person can work safely on older equipment that isn't, with the latest technology. So yeah, make sure you plan your cuts, Teach it to your students, practice with your students, and then let them go, and then you supervise, and away you go. Now the saw stop, where the saw stop is really great, and I loved it when I taught, it was for those moments when everything fell apart. I viewed the saw stop table saw as the last line of defense. Everything else had failed, and things were happening anyway. For example, I'd get stuck in a welding booth with a student. Remember, we ran everything at the same time in a small shop. And sometimes students would get impatient waiting for me to come out, and they would just go to the saw. They were supposed to get my permission before they used it, just to give me a heads up. And all of a sudden, I'd hear the table saw turn on. And I might be in the middle of a weld, middle of showing some student how to do a weld. And at least I thought, okay, well, that's a saw stop table saw. They're at least not going to just outright cut their hand off. Now, yeah, kickback and all that stuff, that's a whole other story. We're not going to go there today because I don't want this video to be that long. So, yeah, I'm not going to sell my Unisaw right away. I love this piece of equipment. It's really a good saw, so I'm going to use it. And I think if I use push sticks properly, you know, palming them and having them ready when I go, I can make cuts safely. In fact, let's try that. I didn't feel like I was in any danger, but you know what? This is something that's up to you as an individual woodworker. I would encourage you, from somebody who's gone through the trauma of having a hand injury, I would encourage you, use your push sticks. Make sure that you're not cutting pieces that are too small on the wrong tool. Okay, all those things. And in the future, maybe there'll be a safety video that I'll do on each tool. Maybe we'll see how that goes. But anyway, yeah, old equipment can still be good, still needs to be maintained and set properly, but things can work out really well. So that brings the weekend edition to a close. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for subscribing. I've had a few more subscribers again lately. I really appreciate that. Love to see this channel grow into something worthwhile. So with that in mind, we will see you on the next video. Have a great weekend, everybody.